Good evening and salutations, my GH fans. So, let's talk about this whole Carly and her idiotic plan and how she's going to wind up screwing everyone over in town because of it. And what I'm mostly disappointed about is Jason. Because, yeah, Carly does dumb things. We all know that, but Jason. I get that Jason. One second. I get that Carly does a lot of dumb things, and Jason, he goes along with them to some extent, even though, begrudgingly. But this is one of those things where it's like, you're in the business. You know how this type of stuff works out, with mob wars and stuff like that. Give Cyrus back his damn mother. I don't understand why is he going along with this for. This is so dumb. Um, Pretty much Laura comes over and tries to convince Jason to give up Florence. And Jason is just kind of just not budging on it. And Car Laura says some stuff that I guess really affected Jason as far as like hopefully getting them to change his damn mind. Um talking about this is out of character of you. This isn't like you, like she's a fragile old woman. And you know, this is going too far pretty much. But she doesn't argue, like she doesn't argue with him to try to, talk over him and get him to change his mind. She just says some stuff, I guess, plant some seeds in his head to make him reconsider. Um, Laura leaves and you see Jason kind of slumped over, like, what did I do? And Laura goes back to Martin, and Mar's like, so is she back yet? Like, what's going on? And Laura's pretty much like, listen. She pretty much tries to reassure Martin that even though that Jason has her, that Jason isn't gonna do anything to hurt her. Um, and honestly, to tell you the truth, Martin's like, I may not agree with Cyrus, but men like Jason, you can't sit there and reason with. Um, and honestly, to tell you the truth, at that point, it doesn't really go anywhere. It's kind of just a moot point. Um, and the scene pretty much kind of ends. So I feel like this whole, kidnapping Cyrus' mother, again, is going to blow up in not just her face, but everyone else's faces. I saw in the previews that Cyrus is going to Jordan and putting pressure on Jordan, and who knows what's going to happen if Jordan declines or isn't as receptive. And this whole thing, in a lot of ways, whatever happens is Carly's fault. Now, Carly goes over Nina's place, or Jax's place. I don't remember who place this is. But anyway, she goes over there, and Jax is like, all right, so what's going on with my daughter? What's going on with our daughter? Like, we need to get her out of Port Charles. So they argue back and forth. Carly's like, oh, I got this handle, yada yada yada. And then Nina puts in her 2 cents, which she puts in her 2 cents, and she's all like, oh, well, maybe we could just have, Jocelyn stay here or whatever. And, Carly's like, I don't need, parenting advice from you or something along those lines. And at that point, she went too far. To an extent, she went too far. And she even apologizes afterwards, and then, Nina leaves, but I'm sitting there thinking, Nina shouldn't have been trying to put her 2 cents into a discussion or an argument between Jax and Carly as far as their daughter is concerned. So that is partly on her. She kind of, in some ways, deserved that. But Carly went too far, like she always does. Jax tries to get her to reveal why she has that handle, like why she's so sure that, Cyrus isn't gonna do anything. But Carly just kind of stays the course and doesn't really admit anything. She's just like, you gotta trust me. And then the conversation kind of shifts to Nell and how, you know, Nina doesn't need to know about Nell, and the minute that she finds out, she's going to sit there and blame Carly, and she's going to sit there and try to excuse every bad thing that Nell has done. And to an extent, Carly's right. That's literally how I see the whole, that's literally how I see it playing out when, and there's no if, when Nina finds out about Nell and everything. Nina also goes to the Metro Court and she runs into Valentine. And here's the thing that I am not liking about Valentine. Whenever Valentine wants to talk to Nina and Nina isn't very receptive, the first thing that he does is use Charlotte. Like, it's so much of a scumbag tactic that I'm just like, and this isn't the first time that he's done that. This isn't the first time he's done that. And every time I sit there and watch these scenes or whatever, and I go on YouTube or whatever, and I never see a lot of people call him out for that. Like, why does he always have to use his daughter as a way to, like, lower Nina's, like, guard and her defenses? It's like, it's so scummy. Anyway, they talk about Carly, and then they talk about, pretty much Nina just giving up the search. And, Valentine's like, well, if Jax is trying to get you to give up the search, it must be for a reason. He's making it seem like it's your idea, which is actually partly true. But then he's all like, if he's doing it, he's doing it to try to, have you all to himself. And like, at that point, that's when Nina just like, all right, I had enough of this, and this was fun. Let's never do this again. And she kind of walks off. But I felt like for a brief minute, she did kind of question, Jackson, why he like, at least for a good 2 seconds of why he wanted her to like give up the search or whatever. But then after that, I'm not gonna lie, it went nowhere. Also, at some point, Anna was talking to Valentine about Dante's condition, and honestly, to tell you the truth, I'm not gonna lie, it almost seemed like it really didn't really go anywhere. Because Valentine was like, so is my daughter safe around him? And Anna was like, well, I don't know. But, through all this red tape or whatever, I don't know how I'm going to get past all this red tape. And, of course, he sees Robert and makes a beeline right to Robert. So I should tell you, if I'm not going to lie, her interrupting Martin's great conversation with Valentine didn't really seem like it really added up. Like, you didn't have any updates for him, so why did you come over there for? And we got this whole scene. This is after Robert talks to Maxie and Peter. And they're talking about this double wedding. And I'm just like, first of all, by the way, I want to sit there and just really stress how stupid of an idea this is. And I also want to sit there and stress how stupid it is for Anna not to actually say anything. Like, this is your wedding. And you're not even bothering to say anything. You're just like, no, that's cool. Maxie has her, once she starts talking, we just can't get her to shut up. I'm like, really? Because you're a grown-ass adult. I'm pretty sure you can actually tell her that you don't want this, but whatever, fine. It's just the joke of the year, or the new year, I guess. So, whatever. Honestly, tell you the truth, I'm not gonna lie, their whole talk really didn't go much of anywhere. I felt like they were somewhat filler. I mean, yeah, you had this awkward tension between, and here's another thing I gotta sit there and say. Maxie goes in the bathroom to cry about Lulu being gone and missing everything, and listen, I have sympathy for Maxie as far as missing her friend, but we all know the real reason why Lulu is in the condition that she's in, so I kind of don't really care to to some extent, to a large extent. But pretty much when Maxie came back from the bathroom, Peter and Robert were talking, and it was tense as usual. Maxie comes back, and this is when Robert's like, oh, I just want to give you, congratulations and stuff like that, and you're like my daughter and stuff like that. And then Maxie's like, oh, so he's pretty much like your son-in-law. And here's the thing that's just really irritating me about Maxie and Anna is that they're constantly trying to get other people to like Peter, to like Peter, to be Peter's best friend. And listen, at the end of the day, Robert is not going to like Peter. And I feel like that's something that Maxie needs to accept. They don't have to sit there and get into arguments. They don't have to sit there and come to blows. But, at the end of the day, you're not going to like everyone. And Maxie's constant, oh, well, you got to treat him like a son-in-law and you got to like him. It's like, just stop. Just shut up and stop. Because it's getting so annoying. It's like having other people constantly be Peter's cheerleader and their first line of defense. It's getting so annoying. And you know what? It actually brings me to a point of why Jax gets so annoyed with Sunny, Because he says something along the lines of, you always are having these women constantly defend you. If it's not Carly, it's Olivia, or it's whatever new love interest that he's with. But he's always having these women constantly defend him. And now, ironically, now I understand exactly what Jax is saying. But anyway, I'm not gonna lie, their conversation really doesn't go anywhere, and I feel like it's mostly filler to some extent. Now, a slightly interesting scene that happened was between Franco and Sam. Franco comes over and he's like, where's Jason? And Sam is like, well, he doesn't live here anymore. Wow. Not an ounce of, I don't know, emotion. It's just like, nope, he doesn't live here anymore. Wow. So anyway, Franco's like, all right, sorry to bother you. And he starts to walk out and he has this, I don't know, huge, like, what was obviously bigger than a migraine. And, at first Sam just kind of looks like, what's going on? But then Sam gets kind of concerned, helps him up, gets him back on his feet, and, Franco doesn't tell Sam what's really going on, which is all these voices and everything like that that's still inside of his head, as a result of the whole, brain scrambling thing that was going on, the memory transplant thing or whatever. At some point, Jason does come over, and, he's like, what is he doing here? He's actually standing right next to you, but okay, sure. Sam goes upstairs to go get the rest of his things because, clearly he's in the mood to sit there and get that stuff out the way. And, Franco talks to Jason and, he's like, the good news is that, I might be fine and the whole the whole switch of personality thing may not be a factor. And Jason's like, well, it may be a factor, so, I guess time will tell. Honestly, to tell you the truth, again, I felt like this was another scene that didn't really go anywhere. Basically, he was like, well, I'm going to give you kind of an idea that I may be okay. You may not have to do what I asked you to do. But if I'm not, then you can still do what I asked you to do. And that was pretty much about it. And then Jason was like, next time he comes over, tell me. I don't know why. Whatever. What else happened? Dante gets a text from Kevin, or so he thinks it's Kevin. And he comes by and he sees Liz for a minute. He stops with Liz and he talks a little bit. And then he goes into office, and of course it's Ulbrich. Now, Ulbrich pretty much is like, listen, I know Kirk is dead, but listen, I'm going to be your handler, and the mission is still going to be on track, and I'm just going to be, overseeing stuff. at first Dante's like, you know what, I'm good. I'm not really like interested in working with you or whatever. And of course, Liesel does the whole pen thing and gets him to comply. And well, pretty much the mission is still on, and she finds out some information about Maxie and her pregnancy with Peter, and so it kind of just ups her timeline as far as, you know, getting Dante to complete whatever mission it is, which I'm assuming is going to be killing Peter. Either that or just exposing her. Whatever happens first, I'm pretty sure she'll probably be happy with it. Also, Anna came by to see. Anna comes by to. This is after Anna talks to Robert as far as the WSB and Kirk and stuff like that. Um, she goes to the hospital and she runs into Liz and she finds out about this Dr. Kurtz or whatever and Kevin. So she wants to sit there and find out information as far as Dante is concerned and, you know, what's, you know, as far as like Kirk and stuff like that. So she. Funny thing is that she's going to go see Kevin, and this is when, luckily, Liesel kind of like wrapped up everything. And so Liesel is heading out in this really bad blonde wig, and, you know, she's about to get in the elevator, and she hears Anna, and Anna's like, oh, can you help me find so-and-so? And now she's stuck. Because the minute that she opens up her mouth, she's exposed. But we all know what's going to happen at this point. She's going to get interrupted. Somebody's going to interrupt her, and it's going to give her a chance to slip away. That's just what's going to happen. I know it's going to happen, and that's why even when I'm seeing the previews, I'm just like, yeah, she's not going to find out. I know it. We all know it, so let's just move on. What else happened? Yeah, I think that's about it. Like I said, this episode wasn't, like, great. It felt like it was more filler. Like, a lot really didn't happen. Um, but I'm interested to see what's going to go on tomorrow as far as, like, Cyrus and Jordan and stuff like that. Because Jordan has not been having a good week. Like, everyone has been pretty much taking pot shots at Jordan. You know, her marriage is on the rocks. You know, Portia went in on her. TG went in on her. And now Cyrus. So, you know, Jordan's just not having a good week. And, be pretty interesting to find out tomorrow on how much of a bad week Jordan is having. And with that being said, I'm going to go. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what your thoughts are on this episode. Be safe. I will catch everyone in the next review.